Hey guys, this is Buddy Blake. I hope you're doing well. I just thought this week I wanted to bring on a good friend of mine who just happened to reach out to me yesterday. I haven't spoken to him in such a long time, but he is always working on something. But he's working on a really innovative project for the real estate industry, for brokers, team leaders, and even agents. And we're kind of one of his beta testers, if you will, and yeah, he's just the kind of guy that likes to get in and ask the questions himself and know what's going on. And I've always respected. He's an author. He's written a number of books. He started his own brokerage, a very high end brokerage, and he's got stuff all over. I can't even keep up. But Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we want to jump in because really the reason we're having this conversation is because you were sharing with me, because you're in Austin Metro, which is, if not one of the hottest markets during COVID, the blow up.
Yep.
You, Florida, Nashville, and then, and Wilmington, our Southeast North Carolina, we're in that top block. We're not like you are, but we're in the same. Let's put it in hurricane tones. We're in the same cone of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you're a very humble and, just like us, you are a believer. Faith is very important to you, and
yep.
Just really encouraging to hear on this day, not a few days after of what happened.
Yep.
To our country.
Yeah. Yeah, Charles. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing right now, because you've had similar pathway to way from me. You started here, you bounced around trying to figure out teams and blah, 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 but you were smart enough to know you figured out how to move on and do other things. So,
yeah. So I got licensed as an agent right out of college about 20 years ago. And 2006 wasn't a bad year, but shortly thereafter, the market started slowing down. And I remember the Dow Jones dropping to 5,000, which is pretty wild because I think it's at like 45,000 or something like that now. I started my career during a pretty challenging time, when all the big banks were going bust, and they made a movie about it called The Big Short.
yeah.
But that's when I started my career as an agent. And then in 2000, I started, I was young, didn't come from money, didn't have, some big database of rich people to go sell their houses. And so what was going on in 2008, 9, and 10 is there were a lot of homes failing to sell. And, between probably 2008, 9, 10, I went on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of appointments with people that had their homes on the market and failed to sell. And basically what I was doing back then is I was just picking up the phone and calling people. And I said, hey, are you interviewing agents? And so, nobody knew who I was. I was this young kid in there, I was 22, 23, 24 years old at the time. And, I spent like probably 3 years, documenting after every appointment, everything everyone said went wrong. And, started kind of developing a bulletproof checklist. And I knew if we did everything on this checklist, the house was going to sell. And it started working really well. And, I started generating a lot of leads as a result of having listings. And I got really into marketing. I had a real passion for marketing like you, buddy. And so then I wanted to start helping other agents follow in my footsteps. And so in 2010, I very naively started a independent brokerage with no affiliation of a national brand. And I'm, right in the backyard of Keller Williams. And we utilized the team model as an independent broker. And, I love to tell you the first year was amazing. It was a complete disaster. I recruited all these agents. None of them, were successful. And, I thought, honestly, I was like, man, these agents just suck. And then I hired a sales coach, and the sales coach said, no, Chris, you suck. So, I had to learn how to recruit the right people, how to train the people, and how to help them have success, and what that roadmap looks like. And then I learned, not all opportunities from a marketing perspective are created equal. And when I started figuring that out, we started growing really fast. And, my team, we became the number one ranked team in Austin, which is amazing because Gary Keller wrote the book on the team model, and we smoked every team in Austin, including all the KW teams.
Right.
And so in 2014, I started expanding another. Yeah, man, you and I have followed. We've gone down a very similar path.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, started expanding, helping other people start launch teams, and and then kind of discovered that our ability as leaders to help other agents be successful is we kind of need to know the granular details around, like, how many calls are they making? What's the quality of those calls when they're talking to people? What's their conversion rates? And all these things for the average consumer probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this is ultimately how you coach somebody to be more effective as a salesperson, and how where you need to spend time to help train somebody. And so, I got involved with a tech company back in 2018, 2019. And we started creating some solutions in the tech space to make life easier in the real estate industry. My key focus has always been brokerage, though. That's where I spend all my time. I have just a huge love for the business and the industry, and helping other people and grow and prosper in the industry. But that's kind of in a nutshell what I've done. I've got 4 corporate offices, if you will, in Texas, and then I've got 10 franchise partners across the U.S., 1 in Canada. And we're, our market in Austin skyrocketed in value. It was all over the news. Prices went up 70, 80%. And now prices have gone down 30 to 40%. We went from having about 2,500 listings in the MLS at the peak of the market to about 18,000. And this is just speaking.
18,000, 3 zeros.
Yeah, 18,000. We went from 2,500 to 18,000, and it happened like that. So, if there's any, what's kind of interesting is, like, I think what we experienced is starting to permeate now to the rest of the United States. And, it's like we got hit the hardest because we went up the most. But I'm now seeing, like most other parts of the U.S., like supply is starting to grow.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the beginning stages of it. Days on market's going up. And man, if I could just relay a message to homeowners, I'm just telling you from personal experience, because I've had these calls, and it's like every seller, we talked to a year ago is like, oh, things will get better, interest rates will go down, prices are going to shoot back up. And, we met people last year that could have sold their house for, call it 600,000. And this year, now they're lucky to sell it for 450. I mean, we're talking about a material difference, $150,000 less. It's like their nest egg is like a glacier that's just melting rapidly. And so, anyways, I hope the message I can convey to people in your market is, we're at a key inflection point, and you don't want to mess around, because if you don't get the job done now selling the house, you better be prepared to hold on to the house for many, many years, because the equity, your perceived equity in the house right now is a melting iceberg, and you may not realize it, and you may not want to hear that. And maybe you've got ideas of what's going to happen in the economy, but it's going to take a catastrophic event again for us to see rates go down to where they were. And not only do rates have to, this, preaching the choir here, not only does the Fed fund rate need to go down, we have to have the Fed open up the quantitative easing playbook again, which means we need some catastrophic, tragic event in the US to happen for them to open up that playbook, which, none of us want that to happen. So it's just, I think everybody needs to, understand that the next couple of years are going to be rocky. And if you do need to sell in the next few years, you really should be thinking about your equity as a melting iceberg. And I hate to be negative, but it's like, if you really need to sell, just do it now, make it happen. Don't wait. Otherwise, you're going to be holding on to that house for a long time. And maybe that's okay. And if you can hold on to it for 4 or 5 years, great, hold on to it. Yeah. I mean, I think our market is like a year or two ahead of you guys. And
well, see, everybody around here, Chris, let me tell you right now, the prognosticators, the people that's supposed to know everything, they are telling us, no, next spring is when everything's going to pick back up. Rates are going to drop. Rates going into the fives are not going to fix this problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, I just saw an article come through, some big study, Deloitte did. And, they're expecting 5 years from now, the Fed fund rate to drop to 4.1. And that's a big study they released just recently. And it's because they're very fearful of the inflation coming roaring back. And so it's just, rates are not, I mean, as long as we live in our lifetime, we may never see rates get to where they were. The thing I would just tell people to be aware of is, we're in a situation now in Austin where we're literally meeting clients. A year ago, they had $100,000 in equity, and we're meeting them this year again. And we're literally telling them, and I know this is going to shock a lot of people to hear this, but this is happening to us every single day. We're literally meeting people that we met a year ago that we told them, we gave them the net proceeds estimate, all the paperwork, right? It's in our computer. And we're telling them, hey, you're going to walk away with $100,000. And, they're like, no, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for the rates to get better and the market to get better. And we're meeting them again this year, and they're having to bring money to the closing table to sell their house.
Right.
So instead of getting that $100,000, now they're like, literally, I was sitting in this room last night with my agents, and we're talking to clients, and they're trying to figure out how to come up with the money, because they literally have to bring $25,000-$50,000 to the closing table to sell their house, and they could have made $100,000 last year. And so I just hope people across the U.S. know that they're
you're the tip of the spear. I talked with Andrew and some of these other people in Florida. They're going through it big time. And then I can tell you right now what's happening here is we have a huge amount of new construction that's on our suburb areas.
Yep.
They bought, and they are dumping and dumping and dumping and incentivizing to levels that are unheard of. And our people don't understand, when I run a comp on something, maybe you don't do this, Chris. I've changed the way I do it. Yeah, I'll show you the last comps of the last 90 days. But I say, none of this matters. Let me show you the 87 houses that you're competing with.
Yeah.
And you've got to be the best value out there. Whereas it used to be location, location, location. It is all about price, price, price.
We do. We're getting smoked by the builders. The builders are taking losses on the houses.
Tell me the secret method, because you got 18,000 of them. Ours is growing rapidly. Our days on market's growing.
I don't have a silver bullet. It's been, it's for us, this has been going on for 2 years. Our inventory skyrocketed, and it happened very fast. And
Did the people that know everything, NAR, all these different, did they tell you it would never happen?
What's crazy is in our market, they were saying the market's appreciating 1 or 2%. NAR was reporting 1 or 2%. But our home values, for example, in 2024 went down 15, 20%. But the national news is saying they went up, 2-3%, right? Or something like that. So a lot of the, real estate, Bob, I'm again preaching to the choir here. This real estate's very local. What happens in your local market could be very different than what's on the national news. And so, anyways, I think Texas and Florida, these markets that went up a lot. I wish I could tell you what the secret is.
You don't know Wilmington at all. But
yeah, I don't know Wilmington at all. No.
Yeah, you don't know it at all. But would you say that would you say that there's anywhere immune to this?
Man. Yeah. There seems to be a few markets, there's not many of them. I'd say most of the United States is starting to see days on market go up. There's some areas outside of New York City that are doing really well, that are landlocked. But most of the U.S. is experiencing an increase in days on market. Supply is going up. And price is a function of supply and demand. As supply goes up, prices start coming down. So, I think markets like yours, are at that point where supply is rising and you're going to start seeing falling prices. Man, I tell you, I wish I had to sell the book, tell you how to.
Well, what are y'all doing? What are your agents? Let's talk to agents. All right, we
Yeah.
talk to consumers. I mean, to a seller that is going to be selling in the next 2 to 3 years, the message is don't wait.
Yeah, I don't know, you probably have one of these. We have this form called the market absorption report form.
Mhm.
And we have one it's a manual form. We fill it out manually. There's a company, and I'm sure you know of it, buddy, Real Market Reports. You can buy them. And so we have one that's similar to Real Market Reports. But we fill it out ourselves. And basically it tells us what is the probability that a client's home will actually sell. And in most instances, and I'm talking hundreds of listing appointments every month that I'm surveying. In most instances, the probability somebody will sell their home in 90 days is 20 to 30%. I mean, it's like going to Las Vegas and you've got an 80% chance you're going to lose, right? I mean, the odds aren't great, but it's like 50-50.
So this is worse than playing blackjack.
Yeah, this is way worse than playing blackjack. You got an 80% chance your house isn't going to sell. So like the pricing strategy guide where, first off, the general principle and rule of thumb we follow is like, you've got to have alignment between the price, the product, and the promotion. So you got to do a great job marketing the house, getting lots of views. You want to put your best foot forward as it relates to the home to make it look its best relative to the competition. And you want to make sure your home's priced correctly. And specific to the price, the thing we learned is based off the absorption rate, you should price the home above or below the sold comps. So like, for example, when there's, if there's 2 or 3 months of inventory, you can price the house relatively close to where the last sold comps were, within, 1 or 2%, right? And, but if there's 6 months of inventory, you've got to look at the sold comps that happened over the past 3 months, and you've got to look at pricing the property, 3 to 5% minimum below the sold comps.
Right.
When inventory starts getting closer to 12 months, you have to price it up to 10% below sold comps, because every day, like a stock on CNBC, it's going down in value. You may not see it like on CNBC, but the values are going down every day. So to increase that probability of success, you've got to, this is the pricing strategy guide we're using, is we use the sold comps as a baseline, and then the absorption rate, whatever that answer is, it's dictating whether you price above or below sold comps. And so, the most amazing thing about the real estate industry is, unlike the stock market, you can predict where prices are going to go for the most part, unless something crazy happens, like when interest rates shot up, almost 300%. But in most instances, you can kind of predict where prices are going to go. So, for example, during COVID, we had less than a month of inventory all over the United States, and we saw, 20% appreciation. And that's usually what happens when inventory gets that low. You see that crazy high 20, 30% appreciation. Then when you see the inventory levels rise to like 6 months, the common home, I know people generally say, that the market's in equilibrium at 6 months, but that's not the case. That's the case for like luxury homes. But like average family, they can't wait 6 months. And so when there's 6 months of inventory, prices are going to be going down. When you look over the course of the year, the prices are going to go down 5, 6, 7%. And then as you approach a year of inventory, now you're talking about prices going down, 10 to 20%. And that's what's happened in a lot of areas in the greater Austin area. There's some areas of around Austin where we have a year of inventory. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
Like there's so much inventory. And then, something you brought up earlier, which is really interesting, is when you look online as a consumer, you see some of the new construction. You don't see all of it.
Oh, you don't see it all.
There's all this hidden inventory that if you're located in an area with new construction, most consumers are not even aware of. Like, they go on Zillow and they see like some resale houses and they're like, oh, my house should be priced here. But little do they know, the new construction builders are sucking out all of the demand in the market, and they're undercutting the resale houses, and they have a brand new house, and they're buying down the interest rate, and they're priced $20,000, $30,000 less. And you don't see any of that online as a consumer if you own a house that's around a general area where there's new construction. So you can have, as a consumer, you can get very jaded when you see things online. When you see national reports that don't necessarily correlate with your local market, and when you specifically the new construction, when you don't see that stuff, you get again real jaded. So, anyways, I think if there is a silver bullet, it's getting those 3 P's in alignment: price, promotion, product, and the seller has to own the product, right? And if if their house is not like above and beyond superior to everything, then the price needs to reflect that it's an inferior house. And you got to take into account these things like the absorption rate to help you understand where to price the home based off where the market's going, not where it's been.
Yeah, wouldn't you say we're having a much harder conversations than we've had in a long time?
Man, honestly, I'm in 2007, 8, and 9, our market here only went down, probably 10, 11, 12%. And, our market's gone down 10 to 12% in the last 6 months.
Right.
We saw 10 to 12% decline over the course of several years. That's happened to us in the last 6 months. So the market today is worse here than it was back then for us. I mean, our market is the one that's taken the big hit this go around. We had in 2023 when so prices started dropping in a very meaningful way in 2023 when rates started going up in the spring and summer. Mm-hmm. And we had about 100 clients. We got offers on their house and they turned them down. In 2024, we had almost 250 clients. We literally got them offers, sometimes multiple offers, and they turned them down. In 2025, we're probably on pace to have another 200 some odd clients that got offers and they don't like them. And what's wild is like every year these people have come back to us to relist. Their houses are worth $100,000 less. Like they should have taken those offers versus waiting a year, and now their nest egg just shrunk $100,000. And then the other thing is like, man, people have such a jaded opinion of like how fast values will go up. Like the appreciation the US saw during COVID is what most people realize over the course of like 2 to 3 decades.
Yes.
And we saw it in 2 years.
Yes.
So, I mean, people might be holding on to their house for another 10, 15, 20 years before they get back to that price. Like literally 10, 15, 20 years is very possible. Yeah. I mean, I'll share another mind-boggling statistic with you. So for anybody that knows Texas, I-35 is kind of a main corridor through Texas, running north and south through central Texas. And the I-35 corridor from San Antonio, Austin, to Dallas, that little corridor right there. I'm not talking about the whole state, just like that corridor between Austin, Dallas, San Antonio. There has been, in the past 12 months, over 32,000 families that listed their homes and it failed to sell. And it's because you got a lot of, in my opinion, you got a lot of agents, one, doing a bad job marketing the house, two, they're telling the seller some price to make them feel good when they list it,
or just to get listed,
and then the house sits there for 6, 7, 8 months, and that's a miserable experience. You're getting out of the house every weekend. You're trying to keep the house looking nice. It's if you got kids, oh my God, that's not a great way to live. And so literally in that little corridor, I-35, we had over 32,000 properties failed to sell. Like that, it's a mind-boggling number of families that have not had their houses, successfully sell. It's just wild.
Well, what did you do? Let me ask you this. Do you guys kind of have a worked-in strategy? I mean, we've kind of, there's no way to enforce it, but we have a strategy where, if your house is not getting X amount of activity, X amount of showings, and no offers every 2 weeks, we're making adjustments. Are you building that in?
We are. We try to set that expectation on day one. And, this marketing and sales is like a funnel. If you're getting lots of hits online and nobody's walking in, the funnel's broken. And if people are comparison shopping and they're not scheduling a showing at your house because they're finding, everything else out there. And
they like the idea of your house, but they don't like your house.
Yeah, right. and then it's like the next piece of the funnel is like, if they're walking in the house and not making offers, again, you got a price or product misalignment relative to the competition. So it's an unfortunate and challenging, but yet crucial conversation to be having with the homeowners. And trust me, no agent wants to be calling a seller telling them like, hey, your neighbor's house just dropped $20,000. you guys have the same exact floor plan. Your houses look identical. Do we want to wait for their house to sell? And then, P.S., we might have a sold comp now and it's going to appraise. It won't appraise for the price you want. Or do you want to just, reduce the price to be in alignment with your neighbors? So anyways, it's, it's a challenging time.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your insight, because I do think I think you're the tip of the spear.
Well, I appreciate all your kind words, buddy. I hope people know how lucky they are to have you in your market. And I hope the agents know how lucky they should be to have somebody with so much wisdom like you.
And any agent that's out there, be watching RealSync. Okay. That's Chris. That's a property he's got. And if you are a team leader or a broker owner, you need to get involved now while they're working through it. And it's going to be amazing. Look up RealSync. And if you don't have that information, call me and I'll connect you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the plug, buddy.
Hey guys. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your time on a Friday.
Take care, buddy.